Welcome to this episode of the Inforunners podcast, and today we are trying something different. I'm Dasein was here.
And this is Hayes.
And
It's a new type of format, really. The video one. First time we're trying it out. Definitely tell us if you like it. We do it more often. It's a lot easier for us to put something like this out because there's a lot less pre-production. Everything's done sort of on the fly, no editing.
which also means you get to hear him stutter like nothing else.
I mean, is this a podcast, a newscast? Is this a
editorial?
What are we going to call this? Editorial? Yeah, that works.
Specialized editorial? I mean, special edition?
Yeah, special edition editorial. Yeah, we'd go with that.
Well, it's kind of out of sequence because you still got your regular episode. We're just popping this in because you know what? Banu hype. We're all excited. We're talking too much, and well, we want to go through and with this. So, well, Banu Q&A came out. Banu Defender. Let's just go right into it. It is the epitome of what I would think a Banu ship would be, and it's actually a ship that I am extremely excited about, even though a lot of people I know hate it. Just saying.
Not to mention we've got a great deal more info on the Banu about their culture, and also new updates on the merchantmen, which are going to be interesting. We should go on a bit later. I mean, let's start with the actual Banu culture. Talk about that for a bit.
Well, the Banu culture is absolutely amazing, and the thing I love about it is, as Hayes was telling me the other day, was it's naturally fleshed out, and when you listen to the Q&A, it makes sense, being as the Banu do not, as they've said in all their stuff, care about history, which really makes it such an easy culture to flesh out, being as you basically just have their kind of racial tics, you might say, their cultural tics that are the here and now, and they'll probably be fairly adaptable, make it easy for them to move on.
When you think about it, the lore team gets a real free kick with the Banu race thanks to this. The whole we conveniently forget everything that came before type of a lore argument. No history, no fine art. And what this allows people to do is to use their imagination to fill in those gaps. And so that sort of fleshes out the worlds and makes the Banu feel mysterious. And what we do know is that they're well-traveled and they're like super hyper-friendly. And that they're probably going to be abundant all over the verse. So this is going to be one of those races that are mysterious, super friendly, up in your face, can find them everywhere. And, you know, compared to the Xi'an, who probably want to bugger off in their own little corner and be left alone. It's like, leave me alone. I'm only here because I have to be type experience. It's going to be really interesting seeing these guys.
Well, the thing I love about them is they remind me of Groot. Just looking at that is like the I am Groot moment right there.
Yeah, Defenders of the Galaxy. No, I double that up, and it's a positive notion. I mean, who doesn't like Groot? Tree species.
And I hate to say this is not the only Guardians of the Galaxy reference we're going to be making later on, and I'm not going to spoil what we're going to be talking about later on. But the Banu race, that's the thing, and the thing I love is actually the Banu, how would you put it, the schooling system. Basically, parentage, unknown. Basically, they go in, they're raised in a school, then basically sold to a guild and raised that way, and then they have to apprenticeship out and pay back their apprenticeship before they move on. And the thing I love about that is, if I own a multi-cruise ship, can I have a Banu apprentice, which pays off his debt to me?
Well, I think they've said initially that you're not going to be able to have extra races on his NPC crews immediately on release, but like going into it, you should eventually be able to have more options with regards to those other races. And, you know, these aren't exactly slaves. They're actually, you know, you'd pay them a wage, and you might own them until they pay off their initial sum, and then they become one of their own. And maybe you get to keep them after they leave, after they paid off their initial owings, I suppose it would be. But I honestly, the Banu would be probably one of the best crew to have because they specialize so heavily in their roles.
Well, it's not just specialization. Think about it. These guys would probably be fairly loyal too, because who's paying their wages? I mean, if you have a race that's a trading race, the worst thing you could do to your reputation is be like, oh, I'm going to stab you in the back, being as, oh, well, now I have a reputation like that, and it's going to be harder to make money. It's like the Ferengi. Good in some ways. War is good for
I don't
business,
know.
war is bad for business.
I mean, what
Ferengi
if
would
you've
stab
been
you.
abusing your Banu apprenticeship and like underpaying him and getting him killed every so often and having all these failed missions? He may like, oh, screw this. I paid my debt. I'm out of here. You know, maybe not
Don't
as
know.
loyal as you think they are.
Well, the thing is, everyone's comparing them to the Ferengi, but the way I see them, they're actually nicer than the Ferengi, because the actual Ferengi were actually cutthroat as all get out. While this race is, you have to look after yourself, but they seem to have a little bit more, how would you put it, scruples, on a weird sense.
They're merchants. I'd say that they're more like big family merchants as opposed to Ferengi. They don't have family. They screw over their mother for enough money. You know, that's what a Ferengi is. You know, it's all about the gold.
It is, and also orcs. Orcs having a base near the Banu area should be pretty much a must, being as, think about it, if you're stationed near the Banu, you can get rare parts a lot easier, maybe for a definite price, but especially if you have some Vandal ships, I mean, think about it, they trade with them for a fee, they'll probably get it.
Well, this is the thing with the rare commodities, like especially Vandal. Like, I don't see humans going into Vandal space and just suddenly striking up trade. But if you go to a Banu sector that's sort of near Vandal, you can probably get access to Vandal tech that you can't anywhere else. And so, like, I think some of the rarest commodities to find will be in Banu sectors, and then to travel further into human sectors that are further apart. I think that's going to be probably one of the more interesting, perhaps even more profitable places to set up a trade org.
Well, just along those same lines, think about the different types of jobs that you might be able to be offered by the Banu. I could expect a huge wide range of jobs, and the fact that their worlds are kind of havens for all the diverse
Slavery?
populations. Well, I wouldn't say
I,
just slavery, but diverse populations.
Well, they do a lot of things that, you know, humans don't do as well, and they sort of skirt with a different idea of law and lawlessness. I mean, there's a lot of criminals from the UAE who head out into Banu territory because, you know, on the record, they're fine out there, but if they went to UAE, they'd probably be arrested straight on the spot. So I think you'll see a darker and a lighter, probably as a less structured sort of jobs you're going to get.
Well, the thing I got from when they were talking about, like, because you mentioned slavery earlier, I actually see slavery in the Banu area as kind of like more indentured servants almost, because they offer you a chance to pay yourself off. But I'm almost wondering if what slavery is going to be like. Again, don't know for sure, is you're sold, but then you basically kind of like an indentured servant. You have to work your way and you can eventually buy your own freedom.
Or you could get someone else to buy you out of slavery to sort of like get you out of jail or something like that. Yeah, like honestly, anyone I really hate, I'll make sure to travel that extra distance just to sell them off to the Banu.
Make a profit.
It's not even about the profit. It's just to say I'm willing to go to that amount of effort. It just shows you how much I hate your guts.
Well, moving on, when we're saying earlier, the Defender is the epitome of Banu culture. The Banu will trade with anyone for anything, and the thing is, it's a mix of technology, everything from Xi'an to going on with your Tavaran, all mixed together, and it's basically what works best. If they want it and it's good, they will get it. And the Defender is kind of that nice poster child of what mix of technology should be. It is fast, maneuverable, hits hard, long range. It does a lot of stuff. Yes, it has limitations, but man, does that mix of technology turn into a nice fighter.
Well, honestly, I'd consider this a good heavy fighter that's also sort of nimble at the same time, mainly because of the strong sort of shields. It's trading armor for evasion, mobility, and agility. The two seats allow it to have that dedicated gunner sort of a setup, whether it be for shield management, power management, sensor arrays, getting out of your seat and actually being able to repair. This is something I really like. about the Defender. In fact, I really used to like the Super Hornet, mainly because of the second seat. The idea that you have two people being able to focus on two separate jobs. And this Defender is bumping my Super Hornet out of the hangar. And pretty sure I'm gonna sell it and keep the new Defender that I've got. And there's a lot of good reasons why I like this ship. I like the fact the guns are so close together. It's got that fire convergence. In fact, this has got better fire convergence than even a Vanguard. And the Vanguard has all the same size weapons, like 6 size 2. They're all very close together. So that, unlike on a Super Hornet, if you got one wing hits the target, the other wing is not going to hit it because it's got such a large distance between the two.
Well, the thing is, it's not even just the fire convergence on the ship that's great. It's the fact that they are tachyon weapons, faster than light, being able to hit a target almost instantaneously. Makes it so not only is the convergence close, but it's the weapon speeds are going to be such that even if they're a little bit farther away from each other, it's probably not going to matter as much with other weapons. And that's amazing when you think about it.
It is amazing when you think about it. And the same thing as a cannon, it's probably something that's going to either charge up or cool down. So it's going to in a burst, but it's going to actually hit in sort of a line of sight type of a thing. That's going to be really interesting to use. And I think that's also why a dedicated gunner makes so much sense. You can have someone who's focused on piloting, another person focusing on gunnery. It allows you to get the best of both worlds, which is... it's also an unfortunate sort of problem CIG keep having with the idea that Zero Order and First Order controls, that they want a ship to be able to sort of be both but suffer from it. CIG love mixing weapon sizes. Like, look at the Super Hornet, they mix size 1, 2, 3, even size 4, so that you can't have all the same size weapons. They scatter all the weapons all around the place, because the way they design ships is we design the ships and then we put the weapons on last. It's the last thing we do. They literally said this in an ATV. It's the worst thing they do. I mean, when you design a ship, you design it so that your weapon system comes first, and then you build the ship around the weapon system. That's how you design real military systems. And just by pure sheer dumb luck, they got everything right with regards to design in the Defender. They've got the good convergence, they've got the right weapon sizes, the same weapon sizes across the thing. They've got a proper dual cockpit system. They've got good systems management between the two, the capacity to repair. Hell, they even put in enough space in this thing to use it as a sort of mini away ship, like a shuttle, or even a miniature drop ship. I mean, they got those 2 beds in there. Don't tell me you can't put 2 people to sleep and let them lay down while you go on the trip. And then there's so much about this ship I just love.
It's literally everything about it. And the thing is, everyone's focusing on the worst thing they could be focusing on, which is, the cockpit has terrible view, and everyone might be saying, well, the cockpit is important, but I'm like, they're probably going to fix it. I mean, this is a concept, and the thing I'm concerned about if they fix it is they mentioned one way of doing that is with the arms on the vessel, and I'm thinking, no, you're now going to mess up whipping convergence, which is the one thing you got right on this ship and the Vanguard, which they got wrong on a lot of other ships.
I think they need to make the arms shorter, if anything. And, I got to really question if they're taking this seriously when they say, we think we have some ideas to perhaps fix it, but we're not going to share them with you. I mean, I think, if anything, CIG are just going into damage control, because they've realized the first 3 top questions was all about the cockpit view. And why wouldn't it be? This is something you should have done before it even got out of white box.
Look at the concept ships. Right now I have pictures of these concept ships, and a lot of them have really good view. I mean, they decided to go with the one with the worst view of them all. And I don't really care about the view of the cockpit, because why, in a sci-fi setting, are we not using virtual cockpits at this point? Capital ships, virtual cockpits.
Like the
Fighters, virtual
Tavern Prowler.
cockpits.
They have a virtual cockpit over the screen. It's you can't actually see through it. It actually projects the image onto the metal. They should use that here. Screw actually fixing the cockpit view. Just use the Tavaran tech to actually show a projection of the space around you. I mean, they have it in cars to this day. My mother got a new car just recently, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is neat, until she got into it, and it's like, whoa, you can see everything. Like, you can see the left and the right, the front and the back, and it's got a picture of the car. And this is today's tech. This is stuff people use in their everyday cars today. Why can't they do a virtual environment for a star citizenship?
Well, and the reason, going back to what I was saying, this is the worst thing they've been focusing on, is they're focusing on that one element which is most likely going to be fixed, instead of all of the positive elements on here. And yes, there's going to be people complaining about it's not size 3 guns, it's size 2, but you know what? Once they start getting cooling systems and everything, the Banu are probably going to have one of the best cooling systems, because they traded with the race that had the best cooling system, and that's what's going to matter, is the smaller weapons will probably cool off faster than the larger ones, and that'll balance out in the end.
Yeah, I think people need to understand this at the end of the day. What the ship has the capacity to provide power for charging and then for cooling back down is probably going to be more important for sustained fire than the maximum size of the weapon. I mean, look at the Buccaneer. It's obviously got difficulties. And then when you bring the Xi'an Scout, it's supposed to have superior cooling tech. So even though the weapons aren't really that great, it's not there yet, but it's supposed to be able to cool it that much faster that it might be able to have a heavy sustained rate. So I'm not too worried about the weapon sizes, even like comparable to a Saber. I think where this ship's really going to be strong is its maneuverability, the agility, those Xi'an-based thrusters, engine, sort of like they do both. If you notice, the thrusters and the engines are listed twice with 2S2. In the tech document, and I think that's because the engines is double listed as a thruster.
But the thing is about the engines being like that, the nice Xeon engines, is the Defender, and this is mentioned directly in the Q&A. It's not just speculation, because when we were originally going to release it, it was going to be speculation, but the Defender is actually more maneuverable than human mainstays like the Hornet and Saber. So those ships may be a little bit more durable in armor and have heavier armament, but you know what? The Defender is going to be able to be very maneuverable, which in tandem with using its heavy shields, which we'll get to in a second, makes it extremely good. Because just imagine, you have a shield facing down and you immediately start turning, or if you're continuously rotating your shields and letting them recharge, your shields will last for a very long time, being as they're heavy shields. But you know what? Q&A kind of made us sad.
They did. They say it's a Tavaran shield, but it's not a Flannex, which is basically what the Prowler was so good at. The idea that you have someone dedicated to shield management to sort of do like a pinpoint defense, sort of a matrix thing. And to be honest, this is a huge disappointment. This is one of the largest missed opportunities for the Defender. I mean, you've got a dedicated second pilot person here, and you only give him a regular shield management as opposed to the more advanced Flannex systems. This would have been probably the largest selling point for the Defender, and they kind of sunk it and didn't think second. I think they think it's only the second person supposed to be gunnery as opposed to a dedicated systems expert or a shield management expert. Because when you think about it, you know that image in Guardians of the Galaxy where they got all those little planes that line up together to form a huge shield system?
And that's what I was expecting, is with the Merchantman and the huge shields. Just imagine your Merchantman is starting to sustain fire and is maybe taking damage, or a shield or component has gone down. All of a sudden, you have all these defenders move into position, Guardians of the Galaxy style, blocking it off and letting it repair or recharge. I still think that can happen, being as they're not Tavaran shields, but it's not that it'd be nearly as effective, because that was one thing that I was going is like, I was telling Hayes, why can't we just move up there and do that? I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy style, that'd be amazing. But the other thing is, this ship is conducive to a third person because of that, because there's so many tablet apps out there nowadays that you can actually use a tablet and do shield management. Just imagine you have one person flying, one person gunning, and one person doing energy management for one vessel. That is
and shield management. Well, if you think about it, you got that guy in the tablet out. I mean, you can already fit 4 people on this ship. Why can't you have that? You know, they got the screen and the constellation on the bed. You could link that through and do the systems. I mean, this would make a lot of sense. And it's such a shame that that Flannex system was not included, because that would make it's so good you could almost justify having that third person in a fighter. This would have been one of the best sort of
Well,
it
it
would have
would have
been
looked like
amazing.
a Cylon fighter, because in the original Battlestar Galactica, they had 3 people. You had the commander, you had the like a gunner, and one other person. And the thing is, just imagine if they had a 3-person fighter, 1 shields, 1 gun, 1 that. The pure dedication of a team working together to pull off this. Still, even with those disappointments, this ship is absolutely amazing because it can do so much. And
it's very competitive when you think
Yes.
about it. I mean, it's got the largest shields for a fighter other than the Super Hornet, a proper like 4 size ones or a single size 2. That's fairly strong, and whilst it might not have the armor once the hits sort of come through, it's got the mobility and the agility that the Super Hornet doesn't, to be good at evasion, and also the second gunner so that you have someone sort of focused on piloting and evasion and someone focusing on a gunnery type of a role. This
Who needs
is a
armor when
really
your
strong
shields don't go
combination.
down, though? Who needs
Though this
armor
is
if
it.
your shields never
Well,
go down?
why get shot in the first place? It's nothing like a Super Hornet. In fact, they've even said that it might be a little bit quicker than a Saber. There's going to be a lot of people pissed off if the Saber's kind of put down a rung and this is stuck up a bit, because they seem to think this is a fairly maneuverable and fast ship. It's like it's got a bit of everything. I don't really see too many downsides in this. It's very well-rounded.
Well, moving on, the Banu Defender might even have a home in the Merchantman. Yes, I am so excited about owning a Merchantman, because they're talking about they're working on a way that it can either dock or actually be able to park into a Merchantman, and I'm going, Merchantman with fighter so it can land and refuel?
My guess is that they're thinking that how there's that underbelly cargo bay in the Merchantman, and that since the Banu is very narrow, but it's also very long, it should be able to perhaps come up inside and dock in the docking area. Maybe if it don't have too much cargo in there, sort of a thing. Because it obviously, I think that they didn't design it this way, but they've obviously come to the realization that, hey, this is actually going to fit. And so they're not making any promises because it wasn't by design. It was just by coincidence it actually does fit. And they've come to that realization that there's a good chance it's going to be able to do that.
Well, the thing is, if it can fit a Defender, then it'd be awesome, because you might be able to fit 2 Buccaneers because their size. Imagine having some long-range Defenders, and then all of a sudden having Interceptor Buccaneers on there which will pop out and go out, because you could probably fit 2 of them.
Yeah, the Buccaneer's fairly narrow as well, and short at that. I don't know if it's as narrow as the Buccaneer, but basically the Defender and the Buccaneer are much smaller than conventional craft like Super Hornets and like Sabres, which are actually huge ships.
Well, either way, the Banu Merchantman, I have to say this, and I'm gonna pull up the absolute new image of this. This is the image right here on screen that we're using for our background. That is the image everyone was going, oh my, it's huge, huge, huge. It's like an Idris. And they confirmed it's not. It's going to be more player size. But either way, we told you so. Size
Capital
increase.
ship.
And capital ships, which means, you know what? Size 7. We may be right. And I hope so, because that makes sense. They've even called it a Banu capital ships, which means that the size rulings may not necessarily apply, as
they
everyone
said
was saying.
the Polaris was one of the smallest capital ships. So if it is capital ship size, then, well, I'm pretty happy I have my Banu already made up. That $100 price increase was pretty spot on for that prediction.
Why not more? I was expecting more for that, because seriously.
I think they didn't put it up to higher than $350 now, because
Yes, it is.
yeah, it's $350,
50.
but that is the ideal price, you see. Because if they raise it any higher, like say up to $400, it would be undesirable for first-time buyers. And I think once it actually goes into flight ready, they'll jump it up to at least $500.
But the
I
thing
fully
is,
expect it to be.
Polaris size, even if it's just a cargo vessel, why in the world do you even want a whole sea? Yes, you could argue some of the extra that you get in which you can have refueling, but who cares? If this thing holds as much cargo, if not even more, than a whole C, even if it holds half of a whole D, this ship is going to be able to be fast, have decent firepower, be able to go through dangerous space with a decent escort, but not as large as any whole series.
This is the thing. I actually have quite a number of hull Ds, and I'm considering putting them on the chopping block now, because this merchantman, if it is like at least half the cargo of a hull D, it's going to be a much better ship to sort of take on regular runs. There's going to be a lot more organization to putting out hull Ds, and why would you buy a hull D for the same price as a merchantman that could probably pull half the cargo, but is such more versatile, is better defended, it lands on planets with most of its cargo. It's a no-brainer right now. With the size increase, I would not recommend getting a hull D over a merchantman.
Well, to think about
In
it,
fact,
just
I
two
might get rid of all of
merchantmen
mine.
is great force projection. So you have two merchantmen instead of one whole D, but you now can cut down the amount of escorts. And even then, if you have escorts,
Two defenders.
you have
Take two defenders.
Yeah,
That's
I
all
would
you
take
need.
more. Take
Well,
four and
three,
rotate them
four.
out.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, like, as opposed to hull D, 4 fighters might not be enough. It wouldn't cut it. You'd probably need something heavier to, take it along. So I think there's a lot of charm in the idea of the merchantmen as opposed to even bothering with the hull D, thanks to this size increase. It may actually change the versatility of the ship as well, because if it's going to be as large as a Polaris, it's definitely going to be fatter than a Polaris. A Polaris is very sort of thin, but the Bannerman is like tall and wide at the same time. This may affect the jump point sizes we end up being able to put a merchantman through. By all means, I think that's still great. I would prefer a larger merchantman that was twice as capable. It makes it more specialized in what it can do. And makes it, as I said, the upmarket version of the hull D. I'm over the moon with this. This is like everything I wanted.
Well, this ship is great, and guys, I'm gonna have to say thank you for your watching and your support. Concerning our new style here, what do you think? Should this be our new style for maybe just occasional news reports for when we have a lot of information to dump? Should we move this to our regular content and maybe be able to pump out a few extra episodes a week, being as the time of edit drops down? I mean, what do you guys want? What do you like? Do you like our old content, new content? I apologize this time, though. I have to apologize for not being as quick on the image swaps as usual, because it is a little bit harder to swap in images extremely fast.
And we'll get better on this if a couple more times, and maybe we'll look into other software. This is the first time for us doing this type of content. If you like it, please respond. We want feedback on this one. Do you think you like this format better than our old format? Do you prefer our old format? Would you like a mix of or regular Inforunner podcasts and perhaps a video feed one like we're doing today? And so I guess that wraps it up. That's the end, isn't it?
Definitely. And guys, please remember to hit that like button, because that really helps us out. The more likes means the more it'll pop up on those different threads and more people will see it. So guys, please remember to do that. And as always, we love your comments. Thanks for watching. See you around in the verge.
Thank you. Catch you around. We're off air now, right?